Yeah, anyway, moving on. It's finally cold enough outside to wear a sweater. Super excited. However, that is not why we're here today. I wanted to talk to you guys about my bookshelf and do like one of the smallest book tours ever. It's so small. Yes, I wanted to go do one of the smallest book tours ever because some of these books I have because I read them and they're interesting. 2, they hold some sentimental value to me, or 3, I've already purchased them before reading them and I want to read them one day. There's not that many, and I think also some of these can be let go of. Most of the books that I read on a day-to-day basis or talk about in these videos are books that I either read on ebooks or audiobooks. Let's get into it. The first book I have here is this National Geographic magazine. Is this a book? I guess so. It's a paper that has words in it. This is a gift. My dad was cleaning out my paternal grandfather's stuff and he saw this and he was like, oh my goodness, this reminds me of me. He said this book reminded him of me. And it had a map. It's a map of the Middle East in there. That's cool. Anyway, it's just one of those things where like, I'm gonna keep this forever. This is this. The next book that I have on my shelf is Pleasure by Eric Jerome Dickey. This book is quite thick. She's cool. She's a thick one. And I read it. That's the crazy part. It's about 400-ish pages, a little over 400 pages. And this book is about this woman. How do I say this? I can talk about whatever I want to talk about. So it's about this woman. It's based in Georgia. She is working, I think she's a writer, I believe, and she starts having a sexual relationship with twins. Yeah, anyway, moving on. Anyway, next book, Asada by Ashada Shakur. I have read a little bit into this book, not fully, honestly, because I know that at this book or during this book there will be moments in which I will be pissed off. And it's just like, what day do you choose, like, okay, I'm okay with being pissed off? That day hasn't come. She keeps on coming back. I've talked about her in so many videos. This is Fast by Millie Belizaire. I feel like I talked about this book so many times, and I have a whole reading vlog about this book. I will put it in the iCards above. But when I tell you 5-star read, 5 stars, point blank, period. It's about a girl named Caprice. It's actually a book about 2 people, honestly. It's a book about Caprice and it's a book about Sean. They are 2 friends who grew up across the street living from one another, and it kind of goes back and forth through their mutual perspectives. It is sectioned in 3 parts of their lives: part when they were in like elementary school, part when they're in high school, and then when they're adults. And it is a story about healing and victimhood. It's a story about trauma. It's a story that I think for the main part of the story is Caprice goes through things in the story. She has problems and issues that she has to overcome, and Sean eventually, he doesn't know about them at first. Like, he sees the symptoms of her problems, but he doesn't know what the root cause of it is, and he is trying to, eventually when he finds out, he's trying to help her and solve the problems and fix and create solutions. And it's the idea of Caprice, her healing could not be because the guy who she loved wanted her to heal. And I feel as though Millie did her big one in explaining and expressing that in the story. And so it's a 5-star read, and I've got to stop talking about it now. Or this is just a journal. It's not really a book. This is Defining the Decade by Meg J. She is a doctor who talked and interviewed several people in their 20s, and she's just giving good insight on to how to define the decades of your 20s. It is a very smooth read. Have I read it fully? No. Will I be reading it before I turn 30? Yes. Am I getting into my late 20s? Yeah. I'm gonna try to read it before the end of next year. The next book that I have on here is The Snowflower and the Secret Fan. This is about two women in 19th century China, and they are friends. And so they start inscribing or sending secret message to each other on a secret fan in a different language that the men cannot understand. From what I've read from the back, the fan is a representation of this small little bit of autonomy these women have in this very restrictive society in which they live, where they have expectations and responsibilities that they need to fulfill. However, I guess at a point in time there's a misunderstanding and they stop being friends, I guess. I have not read this book. I would love to read this book really soon. It's not that long, and I would love to do that. So we'll see what happens with that. Tessa Bailey, yours truly. If you just want a mindless, fun, cute, kiki of a read, there you go. There you go. Here you go. If you just want something that's just like, it is adequately decent. This is the book about, I'm gonna say her name is Nicole. Her name is Natalie. His name is August. Two people, they fall in love. That's all you really need to know. This book is like fluffy and it's chill. It's something like after you read something like Tender as the Flesh and you just need like a palate cleanser. Yeah. Yeah. The next book I want to talk to you guys about that's on my book is Walter Mosley. Hold on. Yeah, Walter Mosley, a sexistential novel, Killing Johnny Fry. I'm just gonna read you the back really quick. It says, when Cordell Carmel catches his longtime girlfriend with another man, the act that he witnessed dissolves all the boundary he knows. He wants revenge, but also something more. This is a story of a man's dark, soulful, and sexual odyssey to uncover the powerful and sometimes disturbing connections that occur between people when the life is lived without limits. So basically, Cordell, his girlfriend cheated on him. He saw his girlfriend cheat on him. He then spiraled into madness. But not madness in like a typical way that you would expect, like, oh, you're angry or you're pissed off. Like, he was angry, he was pissed off, but it was like more sexually explicit. Anyway, the next book is A Fine Balance. This book is situated in India in the 1970s. So you do have class systems that are still playing a part, just as a tidbit in terms of the inhabitants and the natives who live there. What happens in this book is we are taken on a story of 4 people who are living in this one apartment. There's this older woman, nephew, and an uncle, and then this other man who just graduated from college. They're all trying to find housing, and the house is the older woman's house. Owns the house, and she has become somewhat independent in a society where a lot of women aren't like independent and self-reliant, and she's basically renting out space in her house for tailors to come and help her with her business, 1, and 2, to make an income off of renting out her house. That's how we are introduced to the characters, and then for each character we are taken back to the beginning of their life, and we are shown the whole story of how basically their childhood until present day, how they got there. So I got through, not major the book, but I got through, so we first go with the lady, the woman who owns the house. I really should know their names. I do not know their names. I'm not gonna lie to you. Let me just show you. These are how small the words are on every page, and there are over 600 pages. And I'm not gonna lie to you, it wasn't that interesting. Maybe it was just because it was like rising action and I just needed to stick to it. I might come back to this book though, because I don't know if you can tell, I stopped right there. I've already invested a sizable amount of time, about a little bit under 1/3 of the way through. So next we have The Rape of Nanking. This is a book that I got from my grandfather. I haven't read it yet, but I'm so interested in reading this book. I feel like I'm gonna cry, but it is about the Japanese taking over the city of Nanking, which is in China, and then kind of like all the atrocities that happened and that occurred. It's basically something that happened during the World War I that happened to a group of people that have been forgot about. On the title it says The Forgotten Holocaust of World War I. And there's actually pictures in this book, which I know are probably gonna break me. Yeah, there's actually pictures in this book, so I'm going to definitely read this book. It's also very similar to the book like Asada. Like, I know I'm gonna feel something, and it's just like, do I really want to feel sad? Next, second to last book is The Slow Regard of Silent Things. I shouldn't have bought this book because I really need to read the other two. I need to read the other two. I can't even read this book because the author literally says, you might not want to buy this book. I know that's not the sort of thing an author's supposed to say. The marketing people aren't going to like this. My editor is going to have a fit, but I'd rather be honest with you right out of the gate. If you haven't read the other books, you don't want to start here. The last book I have is just a devotional. And that is all that I have on my small little bitchy bookshelf. One thing I want to say before I let you go today, I find it so utterly fascinating, and a lot of these books were either gifted to me or I got the privilege, the amazing privilege of going on somebody's bookshelf and being able to like just peruse and take whichever books I felt as though that would be interesting to me. And it just reminds me, because a lot of these, not a lot of them, but a couple of the books, especially like the historical books, I got from my grandfather. And I just remember a couple of years ago, him like saying like, hey, if you want a book, you could just go to the his bookshelf and just tell him like what book I was taking. And I felt like that is so amazing, and I really wish I just like took advantage of that and took more books. But I just wish I took more, because it's just like you have these books that are on your bookshelf, and obviously I might not love every single one of them, but I feel as though you've vetted them, you've read them, and read them enough to in which you were just like, oh yeah, I want to keep them. And I find that so, like, I cherish that so much, because going to somebody's bookshelf and being like, and they're like, oh yeah, you can take a book if you want, like that. I don't know, I just feel like that's amazing. This is my little small book tour. I'm sure it's gonna grow much substantially. We're probably gonna go book shopping soon, but that is it. I don't want to ramble on too much. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I will see you in another day of Bookmas. Bye.